There's a joke about the English language and the contradictions within it and the nuance. And this joke I've always quite liked. It's the idea that your career is a carefully planned amalgamation of all the components that go together to explain your work trajectory. But also, career can mean to zoom out of control, often downhill. And that often reminds me of my career in sport, where I would career down a hill in a bobsleigh. People who know me will point out pretty quickly that often that was out of control, and it often ended up with me on my head, and more importantly, the people behind me in the back of the sled on their heads as well, which makes for interesting anecdotes, but isn't as much fun as you'd imagine. If you don't know, bobsleighs go, well, from 0 up to nearly 100 miles an hour nowadays, and the potential to turn over at any point is very real. And so I link that back to conversations around anxiety and stress. Is in my career there was a lot of potential for stress and anxiety, and on two very clear moments I was aware. First time I didn't know what it was, the second time I had a better feeling for it, of panic attacks. And one of them was linked to careering down an icy slope. Possibly important to point out to those that don't know that there is a brake in a bobsleigh, but the person that's doing the steering doesn't have access to it. And they've actually got it in the rules of the sport that if you put on a brake, you take a moment to pause, have a slight respite, you're actually disqualified if it was a race, and fined for the damage that braking in the middle of your career has on the impact of the track and everybody else who wanted to use it that day. As with life, there are people out there who can career down an icy slope amazingly. We're lucky to have at the moment a guy who's the greatest of all time. He's literally just pushing the boundaries back. He manages to do that while being a fantastic athlete and, by all accounts, a lovely bloke who has the greater good of the sport in mind. So this is part of what anxiety comes from. Is there's the doing of it, which is challenging enough. And on the occasion that I had my panic attack, I was literally climbing the hill to go to the start, and the pressure just kept building and building and building to the point where I had to stop. What's really nice about that moment is there is a man called Joey Kilburn who was a coach for lots of nations, but he also had a soft spot for the likes of us. We're a small nation with no funding, no coach, no support. And I went and saw Joey, and I said, I can't do it, can't go, I'm not ready, don't want to go. And he said, this is not a problem. Go back to where you were feeling safe, which was a start lower down the hill, which I'd been doing for 2 days or 3 days by that point. Go back, get control of the anxiety, bring it down to a measurable level, and when you're ready, you can go to the top and you can do the run from the top. Of course I knew that. Of course I knew that, but I needed to hear it from Joey. And that's often the thing with anxiety is, as I say, in a Banny world, which is this concept of brittle anxiety creating non-linear and incomprehensible the anxiety is going to be there. The state of the world now, the places we take ourselves to move out of our comfort zone is anxiety inducing. And sometimes we just need a reference point, a Joey Kilburn, who can just give us a course correction. And sometimes that can be take a breath, take a break, go back to the last point that you remember where you were in charge, were in control, and anchor that and use it to move forward. So, on one level, I feel it gives me authority to talk about anxiety, individual, workplace, sporting. I've stared into the eyes of the beast. For a lot of people, the idea of getting up and talking can have them spin out of control with anxiety and stress. Some people push through it. Some people find ways to deal with it. And to me, performing in Lycra, in a dangerous activity, in front of a global audience, again, gives me authority, especially because in that context, I have had those moments. I've had that anxiety attack. And to me, it gives hope to others that, to quote Susan Jeffers, the late Susan Jeffers, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because as we grow, we are going into the unknown, and that, from a primal sense, is tricky for us as a species, because that's where danger lurks. There be dragons. So, given the context, given the Bani context, it's acknowledging it and managing it one way or another. And there are techniques that are available for us to do that.